everyone. Uh, this is Lindsay. Welcome to Be Well Rebellion Podcast, episode 3. This one's just a little informal. I just wanted to hop on a minute to talk about something that has been brought to my attention in a lot of different areas. And because it's been in a lot of different areas of society, it's getting filtered through a lot of different lenses. And as a result, there seems to be a big discrepancy about what really is divine feminine energy. So I think we can all agree that this realm is weird. Like, nothing makes sense. Nothing's really designed to foster life. It's like everything is kind of designed to skew or like invert some energies, and as a result, it's affecting us like individually. It's affecting us in our vessels, in our relationships, and just like our general vibration. But ultimately for women, I feel like I want to give you a heads up, like there's an agenda out here to not to distort feminine energy to the point of an inversion. That's like the end goal. If you ever look at a lot of like situations that are, I guess, based on iniquity or what you would call abusive, a lot of the times the women will describe how they were kind of like exhausted, right? Or made to feel unsafe. And ultimately, like what they all kind of agree, or like one of these ongoing, like pervasive underlying themes of all these abusive situations, is that these women are getting pulled out of their feminine energy. So if you want to be in your divine feminine energy of reception and like channeling and fostering life, being a conduit of life, you have to have the right kind of vibratory state, and that requires you to be in your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest kind of state of reception. Women are so good at pattern recognition, so I think there's a lot of ways that we can fit into the yang style of operation and still do it well. We call it finesse. It's something that we employ instead of like brute strength. And we are natural manipulators because of that, because we know that we can't compete physically in a world with men, obviously. I mean, like men are the stronger, physically the stronger sex, and like you can argue with me about that, but any woman who has ever been like play fighting, with a boyfriend in the past or whatever, there was always that time where you're like, holy shit, I actually he could pin me down and not let me back up if he really wanted to. Like that male strength and physical prowess. I mean, it's kind of undeniable, right? You can't argue with that. So we are natural manipulators as a result of that dynamic. I mean, like, we always have to rein it in. We can always employ some kind of technique because we recognize so many patterns that contribute to the dynamic of existence. We can really pull a lot of strings if we really want to. If we really want to, we can be pretty manipulative, and that overexertion of that manipulative way of being that like kind of comes naturally to a woman, that is a misuse of her feminine energy. I promise you, the divine feminine is not using men for money, right? She is not talking shit to her husband and making him feel terrible. She's encouraging him. She's saying, I believe in you, Otherwise, why would she have picked him? The divine feminine energy is through the woman's embodiment, it still includes the incorporation of a yang, of a healthy yang. So she still has to get up and do things. Like, you're not gonna see, like, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a woman embodying real divine feminine energy that has like that has her nails covered, her hair covered, her skin covered, right? In like chemicals and synthetic shit. And I'm not saying like don't beautify yourself. Like you women are beautiful, and I really really love a lot of their style. I really like to see what they do, you know, with their hair and their makeup and their nails and whatnot and their clothing and whatnot. But you have to remember that, like, as a woman, in order to stay in your natural state, you also have to vibrate with the earth. You've got to you've got to really you've got to remember that your womb is tethered to the earth, so you have to vibrate accordingly. Like by covering up your body so that you're not necessarily taking in the environmental information that helps your mitochondria birth successful offspring. Like, you need to expose your body to the elements. So the divine feminine isn't sitting inside. The divine feminine isn't just getting pampered to an extent that she's disconnected from the earth. It's just, I'm so sorry to burst anybody's bubble, and maybe you're not gonna like to hear this, but if you see a woman who is just slathered in layers of makeup and she's just, you know, so unnatural, she's not taking in the environmental information the way that she could be. She's just not. And as a result of that, her conscious delivery of, you know, her perception of wisdom is going to be off. You can still watch her and learn wisdom, and you can still like learn about your environment by watching her. You can still see how her body responds. I mean, like for instance, like if I, even to this day, like my body's been through so much that even to this day, like if I do a liver cleanse, for instance, like there's a chance that my face will break out a little bit. You know, like that's my body telling me information about what I've been exposed to and what's the natural remedy for it, like what the body is going to go through in order to resolve that iniquity. So you can, I mean, her body, her soul, her emotional state, all of it can give you insight. But that's not always to say that her conscious her conscious vocal delivery of her perception of reality is actually accurate. Because some of us women are cutting ourselves off physically from our natural physical environments, and we're not really reliable resources for necessarily, I mean, some of us are not necessarily reliable resources for understanding the kind of situation we find ourselves in. I mean, some women are so distorted, they don't even recognize that they're distorted. Like, you've got women on the internet right now, like women in general are all kind of like crashing out. A lot of us are like just kind of hit the end of our rope in terms of being, you know, misunderstood or unheard or blamed. And this isn't for all men. I know there's a lot of wonderful, righteous, divine men out there. I'm really just kind of talking about like the state of the iniquity of the world and how it affects women. So don't feel blamed, like, as I'm talking about this. This is dynamic is what it is. And I gotta say too, all of the dynamics that are at play right now between conscious men and women and unconscious males and females alike are all influenced to some degree by the mother wound, whether we want to admit it or not. Because that's not to say that there's a lot of mothers out there that are shitty mothers. That's not to say that at all. It's just a world that doesn't really create the kind of environment that's conducive to effective mothering that really can nip in the bud a lot of difficulties that like adults face today. Like, a lot of us are healing from our childhoods. So regardless of our mother's intentions or her, you know, whether she was a good or bad mother, right? That really means nothing. The environment is not really conducive to wise and relaxed mothering. So there is inevitable trauma that kind of comes through that. I mean, even just, like I think of my own mom, like I have mother wounds, and they vary in the levels or the causes, but one of them was that one of them was caused by because my dad had cancer. My mom found herself with 4 children and working and suddenly wondering if like her husband was gonna die. So like you can only imagine that the stress that she went through and how that affected her mothering. So mother wounds affect us all, even if we had good mothers, and that then affects our perception of the world and how we relate to the world. I mean, we've got our yin, which is our receiver, and then our yang, which is our doer. And we have gotten so, like, the collective pendulum is going back and forth so much that we've gotten so yangy for a while, to where it's like you can see evidence of it in modern medicine a lot, or in education, the way that things are designed. It really lacks consideration for the nuance of wisdom, and it's very yangy. It's just very cut, burn, poison. Don't listen to the body's natural methods of healing or ways of expression. Instead, it's just kind of like a get in line according to this allopathic understanding and remedy, right? So it's kind of like that. It's been very, very yangy. So collectively, I think a lot of us are saying like, well, we're going back to the yin, like we're going back to the divine feminine, but a lot of us don't even know what that was, or is, because our yin is skewed anyway with our mother wound. So we're already kind of operating with a deficiency of understanding that the earth is here to nourish us and love us, and like there's a great mother that like really wants us to thrive, but it's tough love. It's tough love, so we have to be able to hold space for our bodies to witness against us, and like the collective to witness against us, or our children to witness against us, when we've been employing a profound lack of wisdom. We have to be open to that. And I don't think that in some areas we are getting, like, we're having those hard conversations and listening to each other a little bit more and coming up with some solutions to some of those things, but it's a long road. And the discussion, when it's really heightened and heated, is not really going anywhere. And I mentioned before in my last video how it felt like there was such a chasm between males and females, and that has resulted even in a chasm between men and women, because we've had so many situations, we have so many experiences that we don't really want to revisit. So we're kind of just recoiling in general from partnering up. And that's, an insult to life. To not partner up, that's an insult to life. And I think the divine union of man and woman is supposed to be to foster life, and so many of us have gotten sucked into this dynamic of male and female instead, to the point that women are so jaded that they are so in their yang. I don't even think they recognize it, and they're calling it the rise of the divine feminine. The divine feminine doesn't hate men. The divine feminine doesn't want to make them submit. The divine feminine wants to see her man thrive. The divine feminine doesn't want her man to work himself to death. The divine feminine cares about his okayness, and she also recognizes that it doesn't foster life for her to sit around. It doesn't foster life for her to be pampered all the time. She's got to just be given a safe space to operate in her yang too. Like I mentioned, being the yang in my garden. Like I'm the husband. I practice husbandry in my garden. You know, like I watch her and I study her, and then I trim or I plant or I prune, or, you know, whatever needs to be done. But women in general right now, like this is a message to women right now, like we're so not in our feminine state. So many of us are not in our feminine state that like our gardens are metaphorically drying up, and like the divine man that you want to come protect you, he's not seeing anything to protect because um you know, you're getting hoodwinked into giving away your femininity. Like, I think about when many of us women have found ourselves in a situation where we thought we were going to be like a stay-at-home mother, and then we suddenly weren't. And a lot of the you know, let's say stay-at-home homeschooling homesteading mother, okay, and then suddenly that's pulled out from under her. She's faced with a choice then to try to stay true to the identity that she was trying to um, embody and to achieve with the partnership of her husband. She's faced with the choice to let that go. I mean, she could go a whole nother avenue, and they could say, okay, put the kids in school, get a job, you know, settle for somebody else raising your children, settle for somebody else teaching your children, settle for the nervous system stress that you are going to experience on a daily basis because as a mother, you're not supposed to be working. You're not supposed to be working. You're supposed to be feeling safe and tending to your children. Biologically, like that's what you need. You need more sleep than work schedules allow. You need more rest. You need more safety. Like you need more calm than this chaotic world allows. And that's why people will say, single mother homes fare so much worse than single father homes. Well, obviously, women are not made to work. Like we're not supposed, our nervous systems are not designed to be able to switch into work mode and hustle and grind and then come home and care for our babies the way that we need. I think that's just a testament to the fact that children need present mothers. Children don't need working survival, working mothers with their sympathetic nervous system trying to keep them in survival mode because we don't know how we're going to get money to feed our children next week. Like that does no mother any benefits, and it also really hurts her children. That, can you just imagine all the loss, the exponential loss, like the butterfly effect of loss throughout life in the future for every mother that has to say, all right, somebody else needs to raise my children, and then deal with the hurt of that, and then to go and have to wake up to an alarm when that already switches her body into like fight or flight. I mean, she needs, I think it's like 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night women need. And most of us are running on what? 4, 5? I think that's like the norm. Like I was a married single mother. I did everything at home. Every single thing at home I did. And then I also walked on eggshells to make sure that I didn't piss him off, you know, because any given day, like I might actually, you know, upset him, and then who knows, all hell would break loose. And the thing is, I've also been a single mom. Like I've been a married single mom and a single mother. And you know, it's so much easier, single motherhood, because there's nobody around throwing you into your yang. There's nobody around going, must be nice to stay home while I have to earn the money all day. What are you doing? What are you doing to keep up with my work? When really it's just that your work is not valued. And so then because you're in a situation where your work is not valued, you're hustling your ass off to try to match his effort because, oh my God, you know, like I'm trying my best. Like I want to be somebody that brings something to the table. I don't want to be dead weight. And then what? The next thing you know, years have gone by and your health is deteriorating, and you're kind of bitter, and you're kind of like, I mean, like even if you're not bitter, you're timid. You don't feel safe in your home. And then what? You've got a man saying, "Oh, you're not a very good wife. You're not showing up for me the way I need." Meanwhile, she's like literally calcifying inside. her femininity is starving for a safe place. So maybe she like dives into a hobby or dissociates or whatever, and then, there's more reason to blame her because her home is falling apart. And she better, for some of those women, they better dutifully show men the physical affection that they need. They say they need. And I don't know. There's so many women just giving and giving and giving so much that they're losing their femininity. And then the pendulum swings, and so sometimes they're like, well, fuck it. I've been taken advantage of by all the men that I've met. I'm just going to take advantage of them. I'm just going to get their money. I'm just going to, get what I need out of them, and they can fuck right off because they've hurt me. And that's a valid way to be. The sad thing is, like, I validate that. I get it. I have seen some really ugly effects that some unconscious males have had on females and women alike. And so I understand that, but you have to understand that, the Bible says the first will be the last and the last will be the first. It's like this collective pendulum swinging. Okay, well now women are angry. And now that pendulum, now we've got a male loneliness epidemic at the same time that we have a women's situation where they don't want to, where was I? Sorry, I had to stop because my daughter was knocking on the door. But yeah, so now we've got this pendulum swinging. Now we've got women who are like, you know what, fuck this. They're saying there is an entire collective egregore forming among women that there is no benefit to marriage. Like, there's a whole collective of women that think that there's no benefit to marriage. And how sad is that, Because there is a benefit to marriage. Like, I mentioned in the last video, men and women can relate to each other like uplifters. We don't have to relate to each other like mudslingers. We don't have to hurt each other. We don't have to lie to each other. We don't have to hold each other to, like, this standard that we're coming into it kind of skeptical of each other as if we're enemies. Like, we don't have to behave that way. But we do. And so as a result, so many women are so jaded. And because there's so few women actually embodying the divine feminine role of fostering life and what that looks like, because to embody that also means that you're challenging your husband in a way. It also is a scary thing, and a lot of men don't want to be challenged. I'm not only blaming the women for not stepping into that role, but I am letting you know that if you don't step into that role, you're not going to inspire any kind of divine masculine. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna partner with you. And if you are in a situation where you're finding that you're getting sucked into your yang, maybe you find yourself that in that situation where you're doing everything around the whole house, all the cooking, the cleaning, paying the bills, keeping track of all the children's needs and all that stuff. Like, if you find that you're in that kind of situation, understand that there's an expiration date on that iniquity. It's either going to piss you off to the point where you're like done, or you're gonna leave to save your own life, or you're gonna die to it. Because you can't, they say, like, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. You can't turn a little boy into a husband. Like, you can't think that he's gonna go from his mommy's house, or his, like, mommy's love and care, or his mommy's abuse, like, he might not even realize what he's dealing with, but you can't think that he's just gonna segue into your home and be, like, the divine male if he's not being held, like, to that standard. You let him get away with that doing nothing thing, it will eventually eat you up. Or that whole thing where a lot of women married to males, like, they'll come home from work and they'll bring chaos, and, like, what was a okay home is then, like, So the whole vibe shifts as soon as he comes home, and like that's not good for her. She can't be feeling unsafe in her own home, and then she slips into her yang state. Her sympathetic nervous system turns on. Her fight or flight is activated, and then she is like, okay, I need to be safe. So the next thing she's doing, I mean, you hear all these people talk about being safe people or not safe people. She's looking, okay, I need to create a safe environment. So then she gets into her yang state and she's creating herself in her safe environment that he didn't create. And then he's pissed off at her for it. I mean, like my ex-husband, that's how it was in my old marriage. And my ex-husband used to be like, oh, okay, Wonder Woman, why don't you do everything your own fucking self then? But really, I was just trying to create a safe environment, a safe, functional environment for me and my children. And it was like, I try to be patient and I try to be supportive. And then if like something really, really needed to be done for functionality's sake and he wasn't doing it, I would say like, okay, I guess he's like tired, or maybe this isn't a priority for him, but it is for me. So instead of nagging or whatever, I'll just do it myself. And then, you're damned if you do or you're damned if you don't. You're now not living in a feminine state. So he doesn't see any reason to nourish or protect you. He doesn't see any reason to create a safe space for you. Which again, I'm not saying is your fault, because a lot of times women, we slip out of our feminine state out of trauma, not because we want to. In fact, I would go on to say, 100% of times women are traumatized out of their femininity. Not that we are not. It's not that we're just. Oh, I just want to, just give me the tools. It's not like that. We're not like that at all. I think by nature, none of us are like that. But anyway, wherever go back to where I was. So if we're not embodying that natural feminine state, like he doesn't see the value in protecting or providing a safe space for that. And then in return, it just sparks a lot of bitterness and resentment. You then are a mouth to shut up, right? You're not like a divine oracle to heed, because he's not necessarily recognizing your pattern recognition, so you're having to kind of create your own safe space. It's a very, very bad dynamic for both the man and the woman. And then we end up with these situations where they're both blaming each other, and there's so much validity to what both of them are saying, but there is mutual blame as well, because you don't get to a state of full inversion without participation from the other person. You can distort. There's a lot of distortions, and a lot of distortions are accepted too, because there's a lot of different times throughout a relationship where sometimes one of us has to pick up the slack for the other, or given the societal environment, like the environment of society, we end up having to kind of fulfill roles that we don't always, that aren't always natural to us. But you really, really have to make an effort to decide to be in your feminine. Like when I found myself single, and with my children, I was able to remain more in the feminine because I was creating my own safe space, so it was safe at home. So I'm a much better mother. Once I got rid of like the PTSD of having been put through what I went through, I'm a much better mother in a safe environment. And I think that people have taken the priority off of safe environment in terms of nervous system reset and placed it a little too much on like financial provision. Yeah, financial provision is important. It's part of how we feel safe. But like women are also not meant to hustle. So if you can create financial freedom and not have to hustle, then that's wonderful. But if you find that as a woman you are having to just be stressed about it, it's really not worth it, because you matter, and then your femininity matters so much, because it's the difference between you being like a mother that like wounds her children and a matriarch that kind of keeps her children and her family intact. Or even if it's not motherhood, even if you're not a mother, staying in your feminine energy just is paramount. It's necessary. You have to prioritize that. Don't get sucked into being a hustler. Don't get sucked into it. I mean, if we want to live in a world where mothers and women in general are taken a little bit better care of, so that we can foster life and be conduits of life, I think we need to assert that role. My femininity became a non-negotiable for me. So not only do I refuse to enter in a relationship that's going to bring me into my yang again, but I refuse to enter in a lifestyle that's going to bring me into that again. Like if I found myself a single mother and broke and homeless, and my mom wasn't there to help me, with a loan or anything, or with a home, I would probably take me and my children to some kind of communal situation where I could homestead and homeschool with other like-minded families, and then sell everything I had, and then later try to pick up the pieces financially and get back on my feet, because then at least I could have been there for my children during their youth in a way that I know will foster so much success for them, because their nervous systems, their emotional well-being will have been prioritized, and hopefully their propensity for wisdom will have remained intact, because I won't have thrown them into daycare and school and let who knows what influence them, who knows how. And that's not to say that stuff is bad. I mean, like I said, this I feel like was part of my mother wound. Was I went to daycare and I went to school, and I probably I went really early, and I probably would have fared better in some ways had I gotten to stay with my mama, But anyway, I think that this is all really, really poignant. And, if you read the Bible, it says in the end times, just one sec here. Sorry. One last thing. I just want to finish up to say, it says in the Bible that in the end, children will return to the Father. And I really think that, what I think about when I think about that is, right now, there's a lack of trust, kind of. I mean, even between men and women, I think so many men have been with females or witnessed females taking advantage of men that there's some trepidation there. I think so many women have witnessed males, do their women dirty, and so there's some trepidation on that side. But ultimately, like the Bible says, in the end times, children will return to the Father. And what I think that that's alluding to is, right now, when a woman gets pregnant, her mitochondria is knitting this child together that is the answer to her prayers, and also here to assuage her concerns. It's on a DNA cellular level, it is created for the environment that she has encountered. So I think what this means is, in the end, when women and men come together, and who knows what happens to the moon at that point, because the moon is, a feminine energy harvesting tool. But at some point, men and women are going to come together. And when she has a baby, there's going to be full trust, full collective trust on both sides. And we're going to birth a different type of being. It's not going to be a being that has things to resolve in its bloodline. It's going to be a type of being that gets to move on to full magic. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I think that the chasm between men and women will close with the next generation too. Because sometimes, when I think about my own situation, I had my son. He was my fourth baby. The situation was weird. I was in a fully abusive situation. So I don't think that, I gave birth to a little boy that I don't think liked that hurt his dad. I think that he, I would see, granted, my ex-husband was only around the first 2 months of my son's life, but I would see when he would hold him, my son was ugh, and I think it was because he knew, he was in my womb at a time when I was, feeling so much turmoil and enduring so much hardship that he came out on a mission almost. And I almost feel as conscious women who are taking in all the environmental information, we're birthing these babies that are going to really shake up this dynamic, because we can't help but pass the information through our wombs. So I love to see when like I said, when the Bible says that the children return to the Father, I would love to see like a real divine union between men and women and the worlds that they birth. I mean, it would just be so cool if we weren't bogged down by all this petty shit of, checking each other's phones and cheating on each other and lying to each other, or even just not disclosing the full truth. If you're lying to your woman, you're cutting yourself off from the truth. I promise you, I guarantee it. If you think that you're gonna lie to your woman and that she is then going to be the oracle that you could enjoy if you didn't lie to her, like, she deserves full information about her environment. She does. Because then her mitochondria speaks, because then her babies are born fully equipped for this realm. A lot of people are being blindsided by like immunologically even, or spiritually or whatever, because their moms are not doing due diligence, taking note of the current atmosphere. Like I said, cutting themselves off. Your hair is the extension of your nervous system. Like, I can feel when there's nail polish on my nails. I can't stand it because I feel like I'm missing some information, right? And if we are willing to put ourselves more in the dirt, you know what I'm saying? Physically, maybe literally and metaphorically, we can garner more information from our environment, and we can birth more answers, and we can stay in our feminine states and give those divine men something to really be inspired to live or even die for. So, I don't know. The divine feminine and the divine masculine are things that uplift each other. And so if you think that you are a divine feminine and you're not fostering life, maybe reconsider what you're doing with your energy. And I didn't even talk about the men today because that's for a whole nother video. But, this is for the women. Try to stay in your feminine. And if there's not a man around, like, use your prayer. Use your prayer, stay in your feminine, and ask the Great Spirit to be the father, to be the husband. Because there's a creator that loves you. Like, the creator that loves you isn't plucking you out of an abusive marriage to make you struggle and be very, very stressed. It's plucking you out of an abusive marriage so that you can heal your nervous system and try to remember who you are as a whole person that is also operating in a partnership, albeit collectively, if not individually, right? I'm still part of a collective that is interfacing with another collective. I might be a single woman, but I'm still influencing the collective of women that is interacting with a collective of men. I mean, like, I'm kind of recoiling personally. I don't really want to have that much to do with men right now. Or maybe I do and I'm just disillusioned, but you hear about all these men going to all these different countries looking for a different type of, female. And I'm just saying, like, stay true, American women. We are provoking our men because some of us are really trying to enter into that divine feminine state and stay there, even though the whole world is trying to invert us. As the whole world is trying to do. It's trying to get us to get inverted. And then there's really nothing sacred to be protecting anymore. It's just hard. But anyway, I'm going to pause there. Thanks for your time. Much love. And think about what it is to stay in your feminine state, even if you don't have a man around, or even if the man that you have around is less than divine. Anyway, good luck. Bye. Much love.